Hello, Cores, and welcome back to Science. Today we are going to talk about weather patterns. We talked a little bit about these in the past, but today we're going to go more in depth talking about weather pressure systems, including high pressure systems and low pressure systems. These pressure systems have to deal with the air that's around us and influencing our weather, as well as talking about the fronts that can be created when these pressure systems collide with one another. So today I want to do things, or at least try them a little bit differently. What I would like you guys to do is go ahead and get out your scientific notebooks. Turn to the page that we were working on yesterday. Should have been that review PowerPoint that you guys looked over from 6th grade. This page that you wrote notes on should have light notes on it and should have been called Wind. I want you to add another title to this page and call it Weather Patterns. This is where we're going to take some notes and do some activities as we go along. So first, what do you guys think? Is precipitation often occurs at the boundaries of large air masses? Is that true or is that false? And it's okay if you don't know the answer to this question immediately. So this question gets into what different things are about air masses and what an air mass actually is. So what I'm going to do is, instead of answering this question for you right now, I would like you guys to try to come back to this question and answer it later for yourself as we go along. But keep your answer in mind. So let's talk about pressure systems. Weather is often associated with pressure systems. Air pressure is the weight of the molecules in a large mass of air. We know that air can have weight. Air pressure that is higher will have more weight than air pressure that is lower. Cool air molecules are closer together than warm air molecules, and that's because they're more tightly packed. Warm air molecules are most often moving around and bumping into each other, as cool air molecules are more likely to stick together. Cool air masses have high air pressure, which makes sense because they're cooled down. They're going to be more weighty. And warm air masses have less air pressure or less weight. And this means that warm air masses have low pressure. So it may seem a little backwards, but warm air masses will have low pressure or less weight than cool air masses. So for your notebook, using the page we made yesterday, again, I want you to add a second title, call this Weather Patterns. I want you to draw the following figure. And then as we go through the next few slides together, I want you to fill in the information. If you don't have enough information from the slides to fill it in, or you would like more information, you can get out your scientific workbook now. Turn to page 239. And you'll notice that a lot of the information I'm giving you is coming from this page. So high air pressure. One air pressure system is called a high air pressure system. This is a large body of circulating air with high pressure at its center and low pressure on the outsides. So in the direct center, there's a lot of air pressure, and as we move out, it starts to kind of blend out into its surroundings. Kind of like how if you put down a drop of paint on a piece of paper, you will see that it begins to make a circle around your original drop of paint. And that can be because it's beginning to blend out into the surrounding area, just like a high air pressure system will. Air moves from high pressure to low pressure. This is just like when warm air rises and it's replaced by cold air. The space high air pressure leaves is usually replaced by low pressure. So when warm air rises, that space is usually replaced by cold air. When high pressure leaves an area, it's replaced by low pressure. Kind of the same concept. Air moving from areas of high pressure to low pressure is called wind. So this is how wind is created. Wind is the movement of air from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. Now let's talk about a low pressure system. So the second air pressure system that's important for us to talk about is a low pressure system. This type of system is a large body of circulating air with low pressure at its center and high pressure on the outside. So think of like a reverse drop of paint. Instead, the middle is the least dense part and the outside is more dense. So in the middle, we have low pressure. On the outside is high. Air outside the system spirals towards the center, and this can cause low pressure systems to rise. So that air is creating a spiral, it's creating movement. Think about what kinds of weather may be associated with the movement. And as this movement gets created, this low pressure is going to rise up and be replaced by high pressure at the bottom. This rising of air cools. That air then condenses, or the water vapor inside of it condenses, and this can cause clouds to form and sometimes even precipitation, such as rain or snow. So have you ever noticed that the weather sometimes stays the same for several days in a row? Air masses are responsible for this exact thing. Air masses are large bodies of air with distinct temperature and moisture characteristics. Air masses are important because they affect all the weather patterns. An air mass forms when a large high-pressure system stays over an area for several days. The air circulating in the high-pressure system comes in contact with Earth and takes on the temperature and moisture characteristics of the surface of Earth that it is over. Air masses, like high and low-pressure systems, can extend for 1,000 kilometers or more, so big chunks of land they can be over. And sometimes one air mass can even cover the majority of the United States. That's wild. So for your scientific notebook, I want you guys to write down some notes explaining first, what is a good definition, using your own words, of what an air mass is? Next, how do air masses form? Then, how far can they extend? And the last thing I want you to write down is, what do air masses do? You can pause now to be able to finish that. Here are 5 of the most important classifications for air masses. So these are 5 air masses that have been given a name. The first one is an Arctic air mass. The second is the continental polar air masses. The third is a maritime polar air mass. The fourth is the continental tropical air masses. And 5 is the maritime tropical air masses. I want you guys to take a look at pages 240 and 241 in your scientific workbooks. And I want you to read about the 5 different air masses there. You can pause now as you read about these. You can take notes as well if you would like to on these different ones. In fact, I would like you to. Please do take some notes, short notes about each of the 5. Okay. Now that you know what the different air masses is, let's talk about a weather front. A weather front is the boundary between 2 air masses. So these 2 air masses, no matter which of the 2 they are from this list of 5 in your workbook, when these 2 meet, the boundary created is called a weather front. As wind carries an air mass away from the area where it originally formed, that air mass will eventually bump into another air mass, and this is where the major weather changes occur. Changes in temperature, humidity, cloud types, wind, and precipitations are all common where weather fronts are. That's why you often hear about weather people or weather men, weather women, weather anybody weather on the news will talk a lot about weather fronts, and that's because that's where weather is created. What I would like you guys to do now is take a look at pages 242 and 243 in your scientific workbook. Read about the 4 different types of fronts, the cold, warm, stationary, and occluded front. Create the following figure in your scientific notebook and write a definition and at least one characteristic for each of these fronts using your own words. You can pause here now to be able to do that. Our final thing for notes today, I want to challenge you guys to draw each of these under the correct front they represent. So draw each of these symbols under the correct front. You are allowed to use the internet if you would like to research any of these to see which one they are and to double check yourself to make sure you have them right. But I would like you to draw a little graphic in your notebook. After that, you are done with notes for today. But what I would like you to do next is go into Canvas. I have an assignment up for you guys. You guys get to choose from 4 different assignments that I have created. I want you guys to work on that for the rest of class. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you all again tomorrow or very soon. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.